tell you something that might slap your ego in the face. I don't care who is better than me. Not anymore. Not even a little. Not even on my worst day. And if you still do, if you're still haunted by who's ahead, who's admired, who gets more likes, who earns more, who lifts heavier, who looks cleaner, you're not in control of your life. You're playing the wrong game. You're not living for growth. You're living for approval. You're not striving for excellence. You're chasing validation. You're not building yourself. You're renting your identity from someone else's highlight reel. Let's get brutally honest. You're measuring your worth with a broken ruler, a ruler built by strangers who don't even know your name, a ruler that shifts every day, a ruler that punishes you for being different, for being behind, for being you. And here's the twist. Every time you compare yourself to someone else, you abandon the only person you were born to become. Let that sink in. You throw away the one chance you have to live a life that's authentic, powerful, and yours, because you're busy imitating a version of success that wasn't designed for you. How comparison kills identity. I once knew a girl named Tasha. Smart, creative, obsessed with poetry. Her words could break your heart open. But she stopped writing.
Why?
Because another girl her age got a book deal, millions of followers, fame. Tasha looked at her page and then at her notebook and decided, why bother? She compared her work in progress to someone else's finished performance. And from that day, her pen never touched paper again. She didn't fail, she surrendered. For what? An illusion? A follower count? Applause from strangers? She killed her own voice because someone else was louder. Here's what the Stoics knew that we forgot. If you live according to nature, you will never be poor. If you live according to opinion, you will never be rich. Seneca. Comparison is living according to opinion. Other people's success, style, speed, status, they're just opinions. But your nature, your purpose, your pace, that's your truth. And when you ignore that truth, when you chase what isn't yours, you rot from the inside out. Epictetus said, how long will you wait before you demand the best for yourself? Not the best compared to them. The best compared to yesterday's you. Because that's the only fair fight. That's the only scoreboard that matters. You want to know what's behind most of the people you're comparing yourself to? Fear, insecurity, a need to be seen because they can't even look themselves in the mirror. That better body you envy? Steroids, filters, eating disorder. That better relationship? Emotional abuse behind a curated smile. That better career? 40% of high performers are clinically depressed, but they post like gods. So you compare your reality to their illusion, and you punish yourself for not being a lie. That's psychological suicide. The second I said, I don't care who's better than me, everything changed. I stopped chasing approval. I started chasing truth. I stopped imitating. I started innovating. I stopped watching them win. And I started building my own victory.
And guess what?
It was never about being the best. It was about becoming undeniably real, rooted, grounded, free. So go ahead, clap for them. Celebrate their wins. But don't you dare shrink yourself because they're shining. You were never meant to outshine anyone. You were meant to burn so brightly in your own lane that no one else can even look away. Let's be brutally honest. Comparison is not harmless. It's not just motivation. It's not friendly competition. No, it's a disease. But unlike a fever, you don't feel it right away. You don't even know it's killing you until one day you look at your life and realize you've been living through other people's achievements and slowly bearing your own potential under the weight of their wins. It disguises itself cleverly as ambition, drive, even standards.
But make no mistake.
Comparison is slow self-erasure, a subtle daily form of emotional suicide. You see someone ahead of you in the race, and instantly a chemical reaction hits your bloodstream. Shame, why am I not there yet? A panic, I'm falling behind. Insecurity, maybe I'm just not good enough. Resentment, they don't even deserve it. That should be me. That's not growth. That's self-abandonment. You've stopped becoming yourself and started becoming a bitter witness to everyone else's life. Here's the critical misunderstanding. Real ambition isn't fueled by envy, it's fueled by vision. Envy is reactive. Vision is intentional. Envy says, they're ahead, I need to beat them. Vision says, this is where I'm going, no matter who's watching. The second you obsess over being better than someone else, you've already lost.
Why?
Because now your goals are borrowed. Your path is imitated. Your decisions are responses, not creations. You're not leading your life. You're chasing shadows.
And the scariest part?
You start to forget who you were before the comparison began. Let me show you how this looks in real life. A guy named Malik, 27, smart, creative, multi-talented. He could produce music, design, write. He had the rare spark of multi-dimensional creativity. But every time he made something, he'd stop halfway and scroll online. Then he'd see someone doing it better. A producer with cleaner beats. A YouTuber with more followers. A writer with a book deal. And just like that, he'd quit. He convinced himself, what's the point? The market's already full. I'm too late. So he did nothing. Now he's 33. He watches the people he used to compare himself to, people he was once better than thrive. And all he has left is a hard drive full of forgotten dreams. Not because he failed, but because he made comparison his religion and sacrificed his calling on its altar. The Stoics would call this madness. Epictetus wrote, if you want to be free, don't wish for things to happen as others do. Wish for things to happen as they are, and you will always succeed.
In other words,
your freedom begins where comparison ends. The moment you stop needing to outshine someone else, you finally start to illuminate yourself.
think about it.
Marcus Aurelius ruled the Roman Empire, but he journaled like a broke philosopher, never comparing himself to Caesar or Alexander. He focused on discipline, clarity, and intention. He didn't care who was richer, faster, or more famous, because he understood what matters is not what others are doing, but what you are becoming. And in today's world, comparison is not just a disease, it's an addiction, fueled by algorithms designed to show you everything you're not. You don't just feel less, you're fed less. Fed curated success, fed photoshopped bodies, fed highlights from people's lives while you sit in the mess of your own. And while you're feeling sorry for yourself, they're still building. You've probably spent 100 hours watching people grow and 0 hours investing in your own growth. Studied strangers' routines more than your own mind. Scrolled through lifestyles that make you feel worthless instead of building one that fulfills you.
Why?
Because comparison numbs you. It makes you a spectator in your own life. And no matter how much you watch, you never move forward. Here's the bottom line. You can't create from envy. You can't grow through imitation. You can't become who you are by trying to beat who they are. The mind obsessed with comparison is like a car stuck in reverse. It burns fuel, makes noise, and goes nowhere. You don't need to be better than anyone. You need to be undeniably yourself in full focus, in full fire, in full ownership. Because once you stop comparing, you don't just gain peace, you gain momentum. Here's a disturbing truth. Society doesn't want you to feel whole. It needs you to feel broken. Why? Because broken people buy more. Let that sink in. The entire system, from the ads you see, to the influencers you follow, to the apps you scroll, is engineered to create insecurity addiction. The algorithm doesn't want you fulfilled. It wants you triggered. Because if you woke up tomorrow and said, I like who I am, I'm at peace, I don't need anything external to feel enough, half the global economy would collapse. You hate your skin? Here's a product. You hate your body? Here's a plan. You hate your income? Here's a $2,000 course sold by a 21-year-old driving a rented Lamborghini. Insecurity is not a glitch in the system. It's the product. And comparison is how they sell it. You're constantly reminded. Wait, someone is richer. Someone is more attractive. Someone is younger and more successful. Someone your age has already made it. You don't even notice anymore. You're just numbly reacting. You've been trained to feel behind every day, so you'll keep chasing validation and spending to get it. Think of Sophie. She's 24, works in marketing. She spends every night looking at other girls on Instagram traveling, glowing, modeling, living a dream. She starts microdosing Botox she doesn't need. She maxes out a credit card to book a spontaneous solo trip to Bali, just to post photos she barely enjoyed.
Why?
Because social media taught her, you don't deserve love until you look like this, live like this, spend like this. She doesn't know it yet, but she's spiraling into an identity crisis disguised as self-improvement. And she's not alone. She's one of millions silently screaming, look at me, please, just tell me I'm enough. But no one ever does, because comparison never ends. The Stoics warned about this long before the digital age. Epictetus said, if a man gave away your body to some passerby, you'd be furious. Yet you hand over your mind to anyone who comes along. You wouldn't let a random stranger take your house. So why do you let TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube take your peace every hour? Because you've never been taught to guard your attention like your life depends on it. But it does. Your attention becomes your thoughts. Your thoughts become your beliefs. Your beliefs become your identity. And comparison poisons every step of that chain.
And here's the trap.
You keep grinding, but it never feels like progress. You're chasing a moving finish line. You got abs, now you need more definition. You made 10K, now someone made 100K. You posted a win, it got 17 likes, someone else got 17K. It never ends. And eventually you collapse into burnout, not from working too hard, but from believing you're never enough. That's not motivation. That's emotional slavery. Here's the antidote. You stop playing their game. Unfollow anyone who makes you feel less instead of more. Build without broadcasting. Improve yourself silently, without applause, without performance, without proof. And most importantly, redefine success in your own damn language. Not in likes, not in money, not in external validation, but in peace, progress, and alignment. Marcus Aurelius didn't journal for followers. He wrote to remind himself, this is who I am. This is who I must become. Do the same. Let's rip the curtain down. The people you envy are often dying behind the scenes. The perfect couple, they haven't touched each other in months. The millionaire entrepreneur, he's addicted to Adderall, haunted by lawsuits, and hasn't had a real conversation with his father in years. The girl with the flawless Instagram life, she cries herself to sleep, editing her photos until 3 a.m., terrified of becoming irrelevant. What you see is a performance. What you compare yourself to doesn't even exist. Most people's lives are not what they are. They're what they broadcast. A man drives a $200,000 car. You think, he made it, but he financed it, and now he's drowning in debt for the sake of flexing. A woman posts her 5 a.m. gym grind every morning. You think, she's so disciplined. But she hasn't eaten a full meal in days because she's chasing a body that's killing her. That influencer with millions of followers, privately battling anxiety, burnout, or an identity crisis. Real people, fake realities. You're out here destroying your self-worth trying to compete with someone's highlight reel, while they're secretly collapsing behind the curtain. Seneca once wrote, "We are more often frightened than hurt, and we suffer more in imagination than in reality." You imagine their lives are perfect. You imagine they're light years ahead of you. You imagine they wake up smiling and go to sleep proud.
But imagine this instead.
The man who has everything feels nothing. The woman who gets praised every day doesn't believe a word of it. The celebrity who made it is envied by millions but loved by no one who really knows them. You suffer because you believe the illusion. But the Stoics would ask, why place your worth in another person's story when you haven't even finished writing your own? Let me give you a brutally real scenario. Jason, 32, tech founder, millions in revenue. On paper, he's winning. But after years of 18-hour workdays chasing unicorn status, his wife leaves. His kid doesn't know him. His health is collapsing. He made it. But to what? A corner office, a bank account, and a mirror he can't look into. He confesses to a friend, "I've built a life everyone admires, but I don't even like myself." That's the cost of chasing better without ever defining your own values. Understand this. You can be better than 99% and still be miserable. You can beat everyone else and still lose yourself. You can win the game and still hate the prize. Because when your whole life becomes about beating others, you lose the one person who matters most, you. You don't need to keep up. You don't need to prove anything. You don't need to be their kind of better. You need to build a life that feels right from the inside out. One where peace isn't something you buy, it's something you build. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking." And yet here we are, chasing everything outside ourselves, trying to find something inside ourselves. It doesn't work. It never has. Let's start with this brutal truth. You can spend your whole life climbing a mountain and realize too late it was the wrong one. That's what happens when you live by comparison. You start making moves not from purpose, but from pressure. Not from alignment, but from insecurity. You're not asking, what do I want? You're asking, what are they doing and how do I beat them at it? That's not ambition. That's identity suicide. Let me tell you about a man named Dev. Top 10 student, MBA at 23, finance job in a glass tower. To the outside world, he was a bulletproof success. But inside,
Dead.
he hated numbers. He hated the office. He hated himself every morning for choosing this life. Why did he do it? Because years ago, his cousin got rich working in investment banking. And instead of asking, what do I love? Dev asked, what career will shut people up? What will make me feel like I matter? Now he makes 6 figures and has 6 panic attacks a week. He wakes up at 5 a.m. not to chase dreams, but to survive a nightmare he created. All to play a game that wasn't his. Here's what happens when you compare. You stop creating from your truth. You start chasing from your fear. You stop listening to your own soul. You start mimicking someone else's echo. And eventually your entire life becomes a costume party. Your career, your relationships, your goals, none of it feels real. You wake up and don't recognize the person in the mirror. Because everything you built was based on winning someone else's war. Comparison doesn't just mislead your choices, it paralyzes your inner world. You become scared to start, scared to fail, scared to succeed, because now success means keeping up the image. And when you can't keep up, you procrastinate. You numb out. You lie to yourself and say, I'm just figuring things out. When in reality, you're frozen because no version of yourself feels good enough anymore. You don't grow. You just scroll. You just survive. That's the slow death of authenticity. Marcus Aurelius wrote, it is not death that a man should fear, but never beginning to live. And how many people today are already dead inside? Not because of disease, not because of war, but because they've abandoned their own calling for a version of life sold to them through comparison. They've traded meaning for money, purpose for prestige, with joy for performance.
Why?
Because somewhere along the way, they believed the lie. If I become what others admire, then I'll finally feel worthy. But admiration is not love. Validation is not peace. And chasing applause will never heal a heart that's disconnected from its own voice. Burnout isn't always caused by doing too much. Often it's caused by doing too little of what's real. You're exhausted not from effort, but from misalignment. You're drained because every day you wear a mask that doesn't fit. You go to sleep tired and wake up empty. You make progress, but feel nothing. You win, but it never feels like victory. That's what happens when you try to win a game that was never yours to begin with. Here's what the Stoics would say. Sor, stop measuring your life with someone else's ruler. Action, stop chasing success that doesn't fit your soul. Start asking, what is mine to do? Seneca wrote, no man was ever wise by chance. You don't find your purpose through comparison. You find it through radical self-honesty. You sit with yourself. You strip away the noise. You ask, if no one could see me succeed, what would I still choose to do? Because that's where your real life begins.
Let's get one thing straight.
You are not in competition with anyone. Not that guy, not that girl, not the influencer, not your classmates, not your ex. Because here's the truth no one tells you. There is no prize for becoming someone else. You weren't born to outdo others. You were born to become yourself. When you're competing, your mind is noisy. Am I behind? Are they better? Why should I be doing what they're doing? What will people think? But when you're creating, the noise disappears. You're not chasing. You're not imitating. You're not reacting to their timeline. You're building your own. Take Sarah, for example. She's not the loudest person in the room. She's not the most followed. But every day she creates. She writes, she builds, she learns. She gets a little better. No viral moments. No validation needed. Just quiet compounding power. And 3 years later, she owns a business, lives in peace, and wakes up with purpose while the people who laughed are still refreshing their phones, waiting for likes. Marcus Aurelius didn't care about status. He cared about integrity.
He said,
Do your job and let go. He didn't ask, wow, so am I doing better than him? When am I trending? Do they approve of me? He simply asked, am I doing what I was made to do? That's creation. Not for applause. Not for ego. For the craft. For the calling. For the self. That's the question that kills comparison. If no one ever clapped, would you still build? If no one ever reposted, would you still write? If no one ever said, you're killing it, would you still wake up and do the work? If the answer is yes, congratulations. You found your freedom. That's creation. It's not performative. It's personal. Read that again. You are a category of one. No one else has your fingerprints. No one else has your mix of pain, power, weirdness, and wisdom. No one else can do it like you can. So why are you trying to race them? They're not your competition. They're noise. And your job is to turn down the volume and return to your core. You're not trying to beat the next person. You're trying to become the next version of yourself. Here's the scary thing about creators. They don't need attention to grow. They just need time. Because while everyone else is chasing hype, they're sharpening skill. While everyone else is chasing speed, they're building depth. And one day when they show up, they don't need to prove themselves. The work speaks. The best way to destroy comparison? Make yourself incomparable. Don't copy, innovate. Don't flex, build. Don't rush, master. Create something so authentic, so real, so rooted in who you are, that it can't be measured by likes, rankings, or algorithmic popularity. When you stop competing and start creating, you stop chasing relevance. You start becoming legendary. Now let's go deeper philosophically. The Stoics had it right 2,000 years ago. Don't waste what's left of your life in guessing what others are doing and thinking. Marcus Aurelius.
In other words,
Other people's success is irrelevant. You don't control it. You don't shape it. You don't live it. The only thing you ever truly own is your response. Your discipline. Your character. Your next move. Seneca said it even more savagely. You act like mortals in all that you fear, and like immortals in all that you desire. You're terrified of failure, but you act like you have forever to start. You're scared of not being the best, but you keep postponing your real work. That's not stoic, that's self-sabotage. Let me tell you about someone I knew. A man named Trevor. Trevor was different, not in the quirky way. In the genius nobody noticed until it was too late way. He had a rare instinct for design UI, branding, motion graphics, visual storytelling. He could build interfaces that made you feel. He could create from silence what most people couldn't do with a team and a budget. But he had one fatal weakness: comparison. Every time Trevor started a project, an app, a brand, a concept that could have gone viral, he'd open Twitter or Behance or YouTube. And just like that, he'd see someone else doing something better. Better animation, better audience, better reach. And it didn't matter if his idea was brilliant. He told himself, it's too late. I'm behind. They've already won. And just like that, he'd shut the whole thing down. His desk drawers became graveyards, full of unfinished masterpieces, genius-level sketches, brand books, UX flows, all of it abandoned in silence. Not because he wasn't good enough, but because he believed a lie that better meant no room for him. And that lie metastasized.
today,
Trevor stocked shelves at a retail store. Not because he lacked the talent, not because he didn't try, but because somewhere along the way he froze. Comparison didn't just discourage him, it paralyzed him. He stopped creating. He stopped dreaming. He stopped believing his voice mattered. Now here's the sick twist. The guy Trevor was always comparing himself to, the one who had it all, the guy who seemed to win every design award, every retweet, every thread, he later admitted publicly, he copied half his ideas, used ChatGPT for everything, and eventually checked into a psychiatric hospital after suffering a breakdown from the pressure of maintaining an online persona that wasn't real. So let that sink in. Trevor lost to a lie. He lost to an illusion, a projection, a highlight reel built on stolen ideas and collapsing mental health. He threw away his future, trying to outdo someone who wasn't even real with himself. Epictetus once said, it's not things that upset us, but our judgment about things. Trevor wasn't defeated by reality. He was defeated by his perception of reality, by the mental movie he kept playing in his head where everyone else was ahead, and he was hopelessly late. But what if he'd stayed in his lane? What if he just kept building, creating, finishing? He might have been the one others compared themselves to. He might have changed the game. He might have built a life on truth, not fear. But comparison stole it all. And if you're not careful, it'll steal from you too. Your energy, your originality, and yes, your peace, your momentum, and eventually your identity. Not because you weren't capable, but because you kept measuring yourself by a ruler that wasn't even real. So, what now? You think this is just another motivational rant? Some hyped up feel-good, you got this speech? No, this is a system reboot. Because once you see what comparison is doing to you, how it kills your creativity, rots your soul, and rewires your brain to hate your own life, you can't unsee it. And once you know the trap, there's only one way out. Create. Consistently. Quietly. Ferociously. Not for applause. Not to be better. But because it's who you are. This is the shift. From chasing. To channeling. From reacting. To revealing. From needing validation. To becoming undeniable. Make music that only you could make. The kind that hurts to write because it's so real. The kind that would never win a Grammy, but makes one person cry in their car at 2 a.m. and decide not to give up. That's creation, that's power. Write words that feel dangerous to say but honest to speak. The kind of words that shake even you as they leave your mouth. Not trendy, not marketable, just truth in its rawest form.
Why?
Because someone out there needs a permission slip to be real, and you might be it. Build projects you believe in, even if nobody claps. Even if you get 3 likes. Even if no one gets it yet. Even if they say, that's weird, or who do you think you are?
Because here's the truth.
Most pioneers were ridiculed before they were respected. And most of what changes the world starts as something no one understands. You're not creating for now. You're planting seeds for who you'll become. Every day you don't compare. You grow. Even if the progress is invisible. Even if the results are slow. Every time you resist the urge to scroll, to doubt, to measure yourself against someone else's story, you reclaim your mind. You make room for ideas to breathe, for intuition to speak, for courage to lead. And piece by piece, you become someone no one can copy because you're whole. Seneca said, "What progress have I made? I have begun to be a friend to myself." That's what this is really about. Not winning, not outperforming, but becoming someone you can live with. Someone you respect when no one's watching. And the minute you say, "I don't care who's better than me because I'm busy becoming who I'm meant to be," is the minute you escape the trap for good. Your identity, your fire, your legacy, not just a highlight reel, not just a title, but a life that's real, a voice that's clear, a soul that's grounded. That's the shift. That's the escape. And it begins the moment you stop competing and start creating. Say it. I don't care who's better than me. Say it out loud. Let it echo in your body. Not as rebellion, not as arrogance, but as freedom. Because for the first time, maybe in your whole life, you're finally choosing to live forward, not sideways. You're not saying it because you don't believe in growth. You're saying it because you're done chasing ghosts. You've wasted enough time shrinking your light to fit in, dimming your voice because someone else got there first, abandoning yourself to be accepted by strangers who don't even know your middle name.
But now?
Now you're done playing the game because you realize being better is a race with no finish line. And most people sprinting in it don't even know why they're running. Marcus Aurelius said, "Look within. Within is the fountain of good, and it will ever bubble up if you will ever dig." You don't need to be louder, or faster, or more impressive. You need to dig, to go inward and pull out the real gold, the stuff no one can rank, cancel, trend, or take away. Because when your foundation is built from the inside out, the world's judgment becomes irrelevant background noise. How many dreams have died trying to keep up? How many artists gave up because someone else posted sooner? How many lives are wasted trying to win a game that doesn't even have rules? Enough. You don't need to win the game. You need to stop playing it. You're not behind. You're not late. You're not outmatched. You're just on a path that doesn't look like theirs. And thank God for that. Because if you truly became the person you've been comparing yourself to, you'd wake up one day in their skin and realize, this isn't me. This isn't peace. This isn't mine. It means I'm not building to be seen. I'm building to be true. I'm not chasing trends. I'm following truth. I'm not trying to outperform. I'm trying to become. It means I value depth over hype, soul over speed, legacy over likes. It means I'm no longer a reaction. I'm a creator. So let them flex. Let them win. Let them shine. You've got something rare. You've got clarity. You've got stillness. You've got yourself. And in a world of noise and mirrors and competition without meaning, that makes you untouchable. Say it one more time. I don't care who's better than me, and mean it. Because once you do, you'll finally be free to become someone they could never touch.